everyone. This is Eva Hussein from Polaron. Today we're speaking to someone you've met before. Nevertheless, she's a very special person. Hello, Nadja.
Hello, it's great to be back.
Hi. Tell us, where are you? Because you've recently moved. You're in Frankfurt nowadays, is that right?
Yes, I'm based in Frankfurt, Germany now.
Mm-hmm. And how different is that city? Are German cities very different, or are they they are very unique and special? Is that right?
Yeah, I feel like it has a very different vibe. So I don't know if you know this, but Frankfurt is kind of the banking hub. So a lot of the financial and banking industries here, not just of Germany, but of entire Europe and internationally as well. So the city has a very different buzz to it. I used to live in Cologne before, and I felt like it was much more laid back, much more of a student city, and you can really feel that kind of buzz here in the city. And you have all the skyscrapers and everything. It's very exciting.
And it's also a airport hub. Is that right? Frankfurt's one of the
it's one of the major. Yeah, it's Frankfurt International Airport. So a lot of international flights come here. Lufthansa has their hub here. So yeah, there's a lot of international vibes in the city, which I obviously love.
And we were chatting just before we came on air about what's happening in Germany in terms of COVID. And I was admiring your nails, actually, because my nails haven't been done. I've been cutting my own hair, all kinds of stuff. But in Germany, things are more or less back to normal. Or does it depend on the city, on the region? Tell us more.
So yeah, we're back to kind of a new normal. So I think we've been quite lucky. We've been doing quite well in this whole crisis compared to a lot of other places. Everything is basically open. Obviously, there are no major events taking place and all of that, but all the stores, nail salons, all of that, hairdressers, they're all open. Obviously, we're wearing masks everywhere, and they're kind of taking it on a one-by-one basis. So they're looking at individual cities, and then if they surpass a certain number of infections, they will act locally. Mm-hmm. But in general, that's where we're at the moment.
I think it's a little bit like that in Poland. That's certainly their approach, where they watch the incidences of COVID, and then they sort of isolate little bubbles of where that's above certain number, or but again, I watch people in Poland, and I'm thinking, oh, was that photo taken this year? That's not possible, because we are so crazily isolated here. Hopefully soon we can be let out of our homes.
Fingers crossed.
But it's not why we're talking to you today. Definitely not. We're talking to you today because we wanted to share with the world some exciting news. And when I say exciting news, you have been in charge of German citizenship for a while, and it's a very much a growing area of our business. And what we were hoping to do is for you to explain a little bit about eligibility, who qualifies for German citizenship, basically. Also about different types of citizenships, because there are many, and how you can help, and what you do, and how people can contact you, and all of that. So tell me firstly, what are the basic eligibility criteria for German citizenship?
Mm-hmm. So as you said, it depends very much on the different types of citizenships we're going for. So the most basic thing that we usually look at is confirmation of citizenship, which you have in a number of different citizenships, Polish as well, for example, which basically means that you were born a German citizen. You might not even know this, but your grandfather, great-grandfather, mother might have passed their German citizenship onto you, and you were born as a German citizen. And now it's just a matter of taking that to the German government and asking them for confirmation of that fact of your citizenship status. And there are, I would say, two main criteria for that, but then it becomes a little bit more complex. Maybe we can talk about it too.
Yeah.
But the first thing is that your German ancestor, so the person you want to claim your German citizenship from, was able to pass on their citizenship to you. And there are certain rules applying to that. So one of them, for example, is, which is very unfortunate, that women had certain restrictions in passing on their citizenship up to 1975, which is actually quite really late and very obviously very discriminating towards women. But that was the case. So we have to look at these kind of rules to see if, let's say, if your grandmother was German, would she have been able to pass on the citizenship through the generations to you? Yes,
we're looking at how the legislation.
Yeah, we're mostly starting with your last ancestor that was born in Germany, because that will give us quite a good idea, and then we take it from there and trace it through each generation. That's usually how we do it. And then the second thing that we're looking at is if your ancestors ever lost German citizenship, because there are certain ways you could lose it without potentially even knowing it. For example, if you obtained another citizenship, it was quite likely that you automatically lost German citizenship. So these are kind of the two main criteria that we look at. And then, as I explained, there are nuances to both of them that we look into. And that's how we can kind of find out if you qualify for confirmation of citizenship, which is just one of the many types, as you mentioned.
Right. And with confirmation of citizenship, basically it's your birthright. So you're either born German or not.
Yes.
And then essentially, because you're born German, you do not have to renounce your citizenship. So if you hold another country's citizenship, you can have dual citizenship because of that reason. Is that right?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. So if you were born German and maybe Australian, you are a dual citizen. You don't have to renounce your Australian citizenship.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I should tell people that are watching and listening that we receive hundreds of inquiries for German a week, and in the last, I don't know, since March, April, skyrocketed, because I think everyone wants options, everyone wants a second passport. But a lot of the inquiries that we get from people that do not qualify, unfortunately, for the descent, which is the easiest one, because you can actually even guarantee whether someone's a citizen or not, right?
Yeah.
So would you say that most of people that contact you are not eligible for confirmation?
Yeah, a large part isn't eligible, and because of these two criteria that I mentioned, because first of all, unfortunately, everyone who descends from a female German citizen would be very tricky in that case, would possibly not be eligible depending on the dates of birth and all of that. So that's a huge portion of people who wouldn't qualify because of that. And then the other thing is that obviously a lot of times when people left Germany, they would obviously at some point obtain the citizenship of their new home country. And that would also mean they lost German citizenship. So those are two big things that would make a lot of people not eligible for that process. But then another process comes into play.
So I think it's not as simple as saying, oh, my grandma was born in Germany, I have a birth certificate, can I be German? There's a lot more to it than that. And that is why one of the things you do is ask people to complete family trees. And that's a difficult process because, let's say you ask me about my great-grandmother, I'd be like, well, I don't know what year she was born or whatever. So what's that like for people when they have to provide you with that information and, fill in family trees? What happens there?
For a lot of people, so it's different. For a lot of people, it is obviously very tricky because we also mustn't forget that we're talking often about war generations. So these were often people who left during or after World War II. And they obviously didn't want to talk a lot about their past in Germany. So a lot of these people don't know anything about their grandparents, great-grandparents, or even parents' time in Germany. So that makes it very tricky to fill in that information. But then there are also families who have this vast information, who have whole troves of family documents, which is really, really fun to work with. But even if you only have very few information, sometimes we just need the right piece of information. We don't need tons of dates and documents. We just need a couple of things, and that will make our lives easier.
So, Nadja, confirmation of citizenship is one spectrum, which is sort of the easiest. And then you probably, well, not just probably, I know you do. You get emails from people that say, my great-great-great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather was born in, in 1753. Can I get German citizenship? What's the answer to that?
Probably not.
Okay.
Because again, there is another rule. That's why I'm saying it gets more complicated as we look into it in detail. So there was a rule that was applicable until 1914 that said that everyone who left Germany and lived abroad for more than 10 years had to either travel back regularly, so every 10 years, to kind of keep their passport active, or register with the local consulate, German consulate. And if they didn't do that every 10 years up to 1914, they would also automatically lose their citizenship. So if you have ancestors that emigrated very, very early, it's very tricky. Sometimes it happens, we have had it that we have vast documentation of people traveling back because there were ship records and things like that. So it's not impossible, but it definitely makes it a lot trickier.
And of course, for those people that might feel German, speak German, have German traditions and be really connected to Germany, that's a really big disappointment, isn't it? Because even if you haven't been in touch with your German roots, I guess, and you qualified through descent, you don't need to speak the language. You don't need to live in Germany, pay taxes. Well, it's not an automatic thing, but it's a very direct route. Whereas this one requires a lot more work and a lot more commitment. So can you tell us, and where I'm heading with this, of course, is the naturalization pathway. So people that don't qualify through descent can potentially explore that option. Could you maybe tell us a bit more about how it all works?
Yes, so if you don't qualify, like you said, for citizenship by descent, what you can aim for is naturalization in Germany. And basically, everyone's eligible for naturalization. You don't have to live in Germany. You basically need to fulfill, you need to fulfill two criteria. One of them is that you have to prove to the German government that you have connections to Germany that justify you being naturalized. And the second thing is that you have to prove to Germany that it's beneficial for the country to naturalize you a German citizen. And that can be for economic benefits, financial, cultural, whatever asset you can bring to the country would be a good argument. And on the other hand, like I said, show that you have ties to Germany that would justify you in their eyes to become a German citizen.
Mm-hmm. And there's a language component, and there's actually quite a journey. So even if someone has had those links and all of that, still putting the documents together is where we assist and help them basically work out what it is that they need to give. Because if German is anything like Polish, they say fill in this form and submit it, and we'll see what happens. And of course, that is nothing like what we actually have to do. So could you maybe tell us what it is that we have to do if we were to reclaim our German citizenship through naturalization?
So the whole process looks very overwhelming at first glance, because what the German government does is basically give you a list of criteria they would consider as connections to Germany, which is a number of things: German language knowledge, having visited Germany, having lived there, maybe just a number of criteria they give. And then they tell you if you're interested, you can fill out that form, just like you said for Polish, and apply. Which is obviously going to be very difficult, or not have a high chance of success, because if they just see a form where you put in your name and date of birth, they're not going to look into this any further. So what we offer, or what we help with, is kind of break down this complicated and overwhelming process into little chunks and see where we can build a very strong case that the German government will actually look at and consider, and offer support with all the different aspects of naturalization, with all the different things that might be required, and kind of make it a little bit more transparent, a little bit easier than this massive, overwhelming bureaucracy that it is.
And I think that journey is very individual for everyone, because people start from a different platform, I guess, so some people will be very connected, and it's just a matter of documenting it. Other people would be a bit shy, or how can I put it, lack confidence in language or whatever. So that's where we come in and try and build it up, that confidence, that language ability, and also documenting everything. And sometimes people don't think that something's worth documenting. So there's a trip to Germany, participation in festivals, things like volunteer help at German organizations. All of that matters, and it's a matter of actually building that portfolio to the point where the chance of success is quite high. The thing though is that we cannot guarantee that someone will be successful. Is that right?
Yeah, so what we offer is basically a coaching program that will bring you to the point of submitting your application and making your application as strong as it can be. So there obviously is a foundation of the coaching program that consists of a number of different steps, and in each of these steps we'll focus on a different area. We will brush you up on your knowledge about Germany. We will assist you with, like I said, the different criteria from the government. So for example, if we focus on your visits to Germany in one step, we will talk about your past visits to Germany, see what documents you might still have, what we can gather, put together a little package. Or if you potentially, maybe not right now, but in the future, aim at visiting Germany again, we talk about what you could collect there. So we kind of focus on all of these little chunks. So obviously that foundation of the program is there. then even before you decide to work with us, we will look at your case very individually and then tailor that program to your specific needs. So we will take that base and make it really suitable for you. So it fits your needs, it fits your previous knowledge about Germany. So it's not kind of a program that we put on everyone the same. We really tailor make it to your personal needs. And then we complete all of these steps. We put together your application. We work with you for an extended period of time. And then we get your application ready to submit, and then it's really out of our hands. Like you said, what we help with is all of that process of getting to your application, making it very strong and solid, and then we have to see what the government decides eventually.
And we also try and make it fun, and also I guess aligned with what you already like. So we look at your passions, your hobbies, your interests. So if you love cooking, we're not going to be asking you to join an engineers organization because it doesn't make sense. And the other thing, and it's the same for Polish. People ask me, well, how do I know I'm going to be successful? So I tell them that it's very abstract, but the only thing you need is to want to be Polish. And I think it's the same for German. That is the only criteria, and it means different things to different people, and you need to document it, and there's all kinds of things that go with it. But really that sincere, genuine desire to want to be German is the only thing that matters. And that comes with, a lot of work, and potentially for some people, it's a lot of work over months and months. But if you really want to be German, we can help you. Is that how you would put it?
Yeah, it has to be genuine, definitely. So we're going to be working really hand in hand, but there is going to be a large part that needs to come from you, and that needs to be a genuine effort to want to be German, because you will need to put work in it, learning the language, maybe if you don't speak it yet, or connecting with German organizations, like you mentioned. So it's definitely not just submitting a bunch of paperwork and a copy of your passport, and that's it. It really needs to be a sincere wish to become German. And I think once that's there, that's wonderful, and we can work with that perfectly and really make it a strong and solid application with that.
Right. So it's not just about going through the motions. It's that.
Yes.
And I think through the process, people really do reconnect and build up their confidence, and they feel there's that sense of identity. Nadja, tell us about other types of German citizenship process, because we've done quite a few of them, and one of them is for people that were subject to persecution. It's a very interesting area, because we know that Austria has also now made those. There was a major change in legislation. But I know that you had a family of clients not that long ago that got approved for German, and they were Jewish. And maybe if you could, give us a peek behind the curtains about how long it took, what we had to submit, and what actually happened.
Yeah, so we had an article in the German legislation for quite some time geared towards descendants of German Jews who left during the war, because what happened is that if German Jews left the country, they automatically lost their citizenship, their German citizenship, which was obviously declared unlawful after the war, and now their citizenship can be reinstated. And what's actually really great is that the German government passed a decree for that legislation just last year, expanding the scope of it, which means that now everyone who left during the war or the Nazi regime, and they didn't have to be Jewish, everyone who left and their descendants can now have the citizenship reinstated, because obviously not just Jewish German citizens were persecuted, but a lot of other German citizens. So that's really great. That gives us a lot more possibilities and a lot more people, a lot more possibilities to reclaim their German citizenship. So it's a very, very straightforward process. It's very similar to the confirmation of citizenship. We just need to gather some documents that, for example, show that said person was Jewish, which is normally very easy because it was stated on the German birth certificate. And then we submit these applications, we submit these documents, we put together an application very similar to the confirmation of citizenship. And again, as you said, it's not a discretionary process. It's your birthright to have the citizenship reinstated. So it will be very straightforward. The German government, obviously, with anything that has to do with kind of restitution, recompensation for the war, they're very, very lenient. So there won't be any rejections as long as we can prove that the person was Jewish. And yeah, we recently had someone approved for that, it was very, very interesting and great to see that we can kind of give back a little bit. Obviously, it doesn't make up for what happened in the war, but it's a tiny fraction that we can give back to them that is rightfully theirs. Yeah, and that was really great.
But it takes forever, doesn't it? It takes a couple of years, I think.
It does take a long time. So the thing is that, especially since Brexit, the Brexit vote happened, the applications for all of the citizenship procedures, so confirmation and this restitution, rose to around 1,000 per month.
Oh, wow.
And they don't have the capacity. So it takes around 2 years for them to just look at your application. So they're very strict in processing each application in the order they receive them. So that means they will basically just put your application on their desk for 2 years and then pick it up and look at it. What we try to do, and what has worked really well so far, is that we know very well what documents they want to see. So we can put it all there for them to see, and they can just open your file and make a decision, which has happened really quickly in the past. Whereas if they are a bit unsure and if not all the documents are there, they will dig further. They will start doing their research, asking more questions, and that might really extend the process.
Right.
So what we try to do is really limit it to those 2 years. They pick up your application, they make the decision, and that's it. And that's what's happened in the past. That's what we've seen. So that's really good.
And Nadja, who in Germany processes those applications? What is the body? What's the authority? Where are they based? Is there like a one central place where they submit it, or what happens?
Yeah, so there's one authority that's responsible of all citizenship applications. So whether we're talking about naturalization, confirmation, restitution, it's all there. And it's the Federal Office of Administration that is based in Cologne. And they deal mostly with these citizenship applications. That's their main responsibility.
And of course, when we talk about these three types of reclaiming citizenship, we're not even mentioning the ones that are applications by people that live in Germany, because that's yet another process, right? So do you know anything about the qualifying criteria for someone that doesn't have German heritage and happens to live in Germany? How do people apply? What do they have to do?
Yeah, so if you've lived in Germany for at least 8 years, you're entitled to being naturalized there. So that's one option, which is, like I said, then it's your right. There's no leeway in that. And apart from that, there's always a discretionary naturalization that we talked about earlier. That's basically open to everyone with the premise that there's no guarantee.
Okay, I know we have quite a few questions there, but I have another one. So in terms of all these processes, you know, when people come to you, you do have to put a lot of work into trying to actually work out what they qualify for, yeah? Because it's not that straightforward. My grandma's German, can I have my citizenship? It's a lot more complex. So can you tell us a little bit more maybe about the process that you use to assess people's eligibility? Because you look at the law and how that applies to the individual cases, yeah?
Yeah, so I have to look at really many different things. So I get their family tree, I usually ask for more information, and then I have to, because there are all of these different processes. So I will first look at confirmation of citizenship. And like I said, I will go back to the last ancestor that was born in Germany and then trace it through each generation, try to apply the law of each time, because the law has changed several times. So I will always have to look at the law that was applicable when a person was born. So I have to look at all of that. And then if they don't qualify for confirmation, I go back and look at the other procedures there are. So I look at, is there a way for restitution? Did they leave between 33 and 45? So maybe we can go for restitution of citizenship. Or if not, then maybe we can go for naturalization. And something that we haven't even touched upon is that there are also different types of naturalization. For example, if you're a descendant of a German mother and the only reason why you didn't get German citizenship was because of the discrimination, it's also a slightly different process.
Oh, wow.
So I look at these naturalization processes, try to figure out which one would be suitable, and then I get back to our inquirers and let them know what I found out. But it takes me quite some time to figure out and kind of apply all of these different processes and figure out which one they kind of fit in.
Yeah, and that's because we want to give people value in giving them information that's precise and reliable, right? Because we could check a whole heap of these applications and fail, and of course we don't want to do that. So often you would turn people away and say to them, look, you don't actually qualify for that, but you could potentially pursue it under naturalization, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that's something everyone at Polaron does. We don't want to take on cases where we're not 100% sure that they qualify what we're saying to them, or if there are any risks involved, we're very transparent and tell them, look, I think that it could be successful, but there is this minor detail. Do you want to take the risk? So yeah, and I do get a lot of times that people get a little bit angry, which I understand, because their mother was German, but because they were born before a certain date, they don't qualify. And I completely understand that. It's very frustrating. But I'm really clear to them saying, look, your application wouldn't be successful for this reason. So I don't think it's fair to take you on for confirmation of citizenship knowing that it will be rejected.
Right. And I think, because under the German law, just like Polish law, there's a difference between citizenship, nationality, origins, and heritage. So people might feel German, like I said, or even be of German nationality, or origins, or whatever. But it's that citizenship that is quite elusive in that, it's a pretty precise process through descent. So even whether it's you or German government, somebody looks at the dates and what happened over time, and can tell you straight away whether you'd be successful or not. And I think that's a much more transparent and honest conversation. But as you said, not. Some people really want to be German. If they really want to be German, go for naturalization, right?
Absolutely.
Andrea, do we have questions?
Yes, we do have, Eva. Nadja, do I have to renounce my American citizenship to be able to obtain German citizenship?
Okay, so there are different answers to that. It depends on what process you aim for. As we said, the confirmation or restitution means that you don't have to renounce your citizenship. When we look at the naturalization, again, we have to look at which process you fall into or which procedure you fall into. There's the one that I mentioned, if you're a descendant of a German mother or grandmother and were discriminated because she was female, then you might not have to renounce your citizenship. If we look at the very, very standard discretionary process, the default requirement is that you have to renounce your citizenship. But, and that's very important, there are also exceptions to that. So you can always apply to retain your current citizenship. And especially with US citizens, there's quite a high chance that this is possible and this is granted. It is generally also discretionary, so there's no guarantee you're allowed to keep both citizenships. But what happens is that if you renounce your US citizenship, you have to pay quite high fees to the US government. And that is recognized by the German government as a financial hardship on you. So if you apply to retain your US citizenship and you explain to them or you give as a reason that you cannot, it's too much of a financial burden, there's a good chance that this will be approved. Yet I would always, I always think it's important when you go into this process to know that there is a possibility that you would have to give up your US citizenship. But like I said, it's not 100% sure that it would happen.
Yeah, that's really interesting because it's both very flexible and quite restrictive in the way that the laws operate, and depending on which little net you get caught, this or that, or you might be eligible, you might not be, but over the years that you've worked with us, you've developed quite a keen eye for those details. So the good thing is that you can actually tell people up front what they qualify for anything and what the chances of success are. Andrea, any other questions?
Yes, second question, guys. Can someone apply for German citizenship by themselves? Or do they need to go through an agency of someone who can help?
No, you can apply for it yourself. You can apply to your nearest consulate, for example, and they will forward it. And you can go, if you know what documents you need, if you know what you have to provide, you can go through the consulate as well.
Yeah, it's the same like that for Polish or Czech or other countries. It just depends whether you can, you have to do your own translations, apostille, all of that you need to do, but there's, certainly that's an option, for sure.
Thank you. Do I have to live in Germany for 8 years to qualify for naturalization, Nadja?
No, so you can go that route. That's one possibility, to go there, live there for 8 years and then apply. The other thing is that discretionary naturalization that I mentioned, and you don't have to live in Germany. You don't have to have ever lived in Germany. You can have lived your whole life in Australia, US, UK, South Africa, and still apply for naturalization. That's not a problem.
Do I have to attend a face-to-face interview to reclaim German citizenship, or can I do it online?
So that's I think where it's a little bit different from the Polish process, I believe. So the way this works is that you submit your application with the consulate, you go there in person, but at that point there will not be an interview. And what happens is that if your application gets approved in Germany, you will be asked to sit a naturalization test. So they will ask you certain questions about German culture, about Germany in general, history and all of that. And that's also something that is part of our program. So we will tackle all of these different areas, and we will do kind of sample tests with you to prepare you for that. So that is kind of instead of a formal interview, you will have to sit that test.
And Nadja, that test includes elements of language, and it's probably in German, is that right?
It is in German.
Yeah.
I think the test itself doesn't include elements of German, because you have to submit a separate language certificate that shows that you speak the language, but obviously the whole test is going to be in German, so that will be kind of proof that you speak the language. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you so much, ladies. That's all. We haven't received any other questions.
Wonderful.
Thank you.
Well, I have a question, Nadja, because I'm really fascinated by the posters behind you. I'm trying to work out what it is. I can see a family tree. What is that?
Yeah, so this one is a language family tree.
Mm-hmm.
So it has all Indo-European and Finno-Ugric languages. So I'm a bit of a linguist. I don't know if you find that as exciting as I do.
Of course we do, because you even speak Finnish. Is that right? You've studied Finnish?
I studied Finnish at university, yes.
Wow.
And then these two are royal family trees. So we have Western Europe and then Northern and Eastern Europe.
Wow.
Yeah, and they go back all the way to Charlemagne and like all the way down to Prince George in the UK, and obviously other royal families. I just find them very fascinating, and yeah, I thought it was fun to have them in there.
Yeah,
a bit of
Nadja.
A royal nerd.
Yeah, you're not weird at all, Nadja, not at all.
Yeah, that's what I keep telling myself.
We just received one more question.
Yeah, go for it.
Can a stateless person receive German citizenship if they were born in a war camp?
Sorry, can you repeat the beginning?
Yes. Can a stateless person receive German citizenship if they were born in a war camp?
So I would say it depends on their heritage. So if they were their family was German and they became stateless in the war, absolutely, you can apply for restitution. But it was also often the case that their parents or grandparents might have been Polish and ended up in war camps. I think Eva can confirm that, and then you might be able to go for Polish citizenship. I don't know if you want to add something.
Yeah, absolutely. So just being born in Germany or even being born stateless isn't the same as being born a German citizen.
That's right.
So often, you know, we have many families where, you know, they ended up there as a displaced person and children were born there. But unfortunately, it's not the same as having citizenship. So it's the same for France and Austria. So wherever people were born, unless the country had the law of soil, which means that if you're born on that soil, you become a citizen, like in America, for example, the answer is no, unfortunately. So we do have to look into your heritage, who your parents were, rather than where you were born.
Yeah, that's absolutely right.
But that's a very good question.
Thank you. That's all.
All right. Well, Nadja, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
For sharing your knowledge and your morning with us. We will speak to you, I'm sure, sometime soon again. But in the meantime, if anyone wants to talk about German citizenship, Nadja's details are on our website, polaron.com.au. And, you know, she's very competent, very professional, as you can see, very friendly, and very patient, which is something that we need to be with when we explain such complex processes essentially. So Nadja, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
And we speak to you very, very soon. Have a great day.
Yeah, I hope so. You too, guys. See ya.
Thanks, Nadja.
Bye.
Bye.